Whatever it takes. This blog post was posted on the Blessed Hope on August 11th in 2019. Continuing the lessons learned from brain cancer. After the phone call with troubling news, as we drove into the dark night, we sobbed quietly and prayed. I told my husband we just moved west so our kids could get to know our family and Grandma. And now this? As we drove and prayed and cried, I reached over and squeezed his hand. We were not completely aware of how our lives would change with this new battle. My husband, for several years, had been very concerned about his mother's spiritual condition. We knew she was attending church, but we had concerns whether or not she was ready for heaven. My husband had been praying, Lord, whatever it takes for my mom to be ready, for her to be saved, Lord, whatever it takes. That night, on our way to the hospital as we drove through the Blue Mountains, the Lord spoke in his still small voice to my husband, Son, you've been praying whatever it takes for her to be saved. Did you mean it? He responded, Yes, Lord. Okay then. In the following months, that simple word from the Lord brought comfort and assurance that God intended to do a miracle. Mom Bogoni reminded me of a teenager who was excited for a sleepover when my husband and I got to her hospital room at 3 a.m. They had a folding bed, a little wider than a twin, with 2 pillows and a small blanket ready for us. We fit perfectly on our sides. Mom seemed cheerful and kept asking, Are you comfortable? She introduced us to the nursing staff as her son and her daughter. I made sure they knew we were married as we were sleeping rather close. I know that she introduced us as her son and daughter, but I'm her daughter by marriage. The nurse snickered and said, Oh, we see all kinds of things up here. The doctor advised Mom and us to make sure we had a power of attorney in place so her son could make medical and business decisions for her. This was such helpful advice. We did not know at that time how much it would be needed. The next several days, the cancer so affected her brain. She knew we were there and that we loved her, but she could not remember who we were. We stayed most of the time in the room, but if we had to leave the room for any reason, we had to have a nursing assistant to help keep an eye on her, to not try and take those staples out of the side of her head. In her home, the evidence was there in many places that she had not been well for some time. Thankfully, our story does not end there, because we did not have the assurance that her heart was right with God. Another lesson we would experience in this battle with brain cancer and battle for my mother-in-law's eternal soul. When God tells you something, it does not matter how impossible it looks with men, for with God nothing shall be impossible, Luke 1:37 says. These thoughts were well spoken in the song sang by the Wisnots. It's out of your hands, you've done all you can do. You've given God the problem, it's no longer up to you. You've prayed the prayer of faith, you're standing on God's truth. While you're waiting on the answer, He has a question for you. Is anything too hard for God? Who's got a problem beyond His power to solve? Are there situations that He's not the master of? Is anything too hard for God? Only believe, trust His word, you'll see. His plans are now unfolding, performing perfectly. It's clear how much He loves you. Look at all He's done for all your questions. There's really only one. Is anything too hard for God? We held on to the words spoken to my husband in the dark of night. Son, you've been praying whatever it takes for her to be saved. Did you mean it? Yes, Lord. Jeremiah 32:27 says, Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me?